Hello and welcome to the Good Friday service.
We hope you are all healthy, and we want you to know that we are thinking of you. Bye-bye.
From the book of Luke, chapter 22, verses 54 through 62, Peter disowns Jesus. Then seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. And when some there had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and had sat down together, Peter sat down with them. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know him," he said. A little later, someone else saw him and said, "You also are one of them." "Man, I am not," Peter replied. About an hour later, another asserted, "Certainly this fellow was with him, for he's a Galilean." Peter replied, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word the Lord had spoken to him. "Before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times." and he went outside and wept bitterly.
I remember when he questioned, "Who do you say that I am?" I answered, "Lord, you are the Christ, the living Word, God's spotless Lamb." Then he placed his blessing upon me, the Holy One sent from above. Though I was his rock, I never deserved the wonderful gift of his love. The keys to the kingdom of heaven were mine, and all of the powers of earth and glory divine. Time after time I denied you, yet you cared so much for me. Blessed Savior, hear my plea. Please forgive me. I remember when he told us that he must suffer and die, although at first I didn't believe. Now it brings me cause to cry, as my guilt and agony deepen. I aimlessly search for a way to know once again your love will restore this life that I give you today. The keys to the kingdom of heaven are mine, and all of the powers of earth and glory divine. Time after time I denied you, yet you cared so much for me. Blessed Savior, hear my plea. Please forgive
The trial, Mark 15, 1-15. Jesus before Pilate. Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. "Are you the king of Jews?" asked Pilate. "You have said so," Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things, so again Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of?" But Jesus still made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. Now it was the custom at the festival to release a prisoner whom the people requested. A man called Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder in the uprising. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. "Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate, knowing it was out of self-interest that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. "What shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked them. "Crucify him," they shouted. "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him." Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified.
Wasn't it a pity and a shame? And he never said a mumbling word. Wasn't it a pity and a shame? And he never said a mumbling word. Not a word. Not a word. Not a They pierced him in the side, and he never said a mumbling word. They pierced him in the side, and he never said a mumbling word. Not a word. Not a word. Not a His blood came trickling
The Crucifixion. Luke 23, verse 32 through 46. 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others, let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. For the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn into 2. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said that, he breathed his last.
Taunts of jeering mouth. No more the scathing stings of whip or club.
No more the vicious racking
No more the vicious racking pain. The vicious racking pain of nails and cross.
Loneliness remains. He takes it through the door of death unwillingly, but with a depth of understanding only he would know. He lived for us. He died for us. And now he knows the loneliness of his death was no greater than the loneliness of his life. Christ, we do all adore thee, and we do